So, Phantom or Mercurial? Well, if you've clicked this video, you probably want to know how the new Nike Phantom GX compares to the Nike Mercurial, and maybe also just find out which one of them you should choose to wear. So I've worn the Phantom GX for quite a while now, and I figured I'd just sit down today and give you guys as much information as possible to, hopefully at least, help you decide which one of these two to buy, in the link to Unisport right up there or in the description, because today, my friends, we are gonna have ourselves a little boot battle. But one of the biggest difference you'll notice if you put them on side by side is in the fit. And it's actually a rather big difference because the Phantom GX has been built to make the wearer feel as free as possible, basically removing all and any distractions, whereas the Mercurial is built for speed with that very snug, locked-in fit. And again, when you put the boots on side by side, you can really tell. Now, normally I'd say that the Mercurial is actually a relatively wide-fitting boot. It's decently wide, let's say it that way, but compared to the GX, it is definitely the slimmer out of the two, because the GX is just a wider fit, especially in the full foot, and it just has a more sculpted feel to the shape of the boot itself. Whereas the Mercurial is more, I don't know if it's the right word to use, but it feels more like straight and tube-like compared to the GX with a slightly less curvy shape to it. Now, another difference lies in the toe boxes, where the Mercurial has a little bit more volume because it is higher than the GX, which is super low, very sharp and pointy, and it's not a problem though, but I'll get to that later. But also, width-wise, the Phantom GX is a little bit more rounded and wider than the Mercurial, which might be higher, but it also feels a little bit more pointy and has a tighter, more snug fit to the sides. So, depends on what you like. And I've said the word snug quite a lot already, and that's a good way to describe the fit in the Mercurial. Because, don't get me wrong, this Vaporposit Plus upper here is very nice and soft out of the box. But you definitely also feel how the upper has its focus on really hugging the foot tightly and holding it in place. I mean, it's not to the point where I've ever felt that it's restrictive or downright uncomfortable, but you just feel the fixation of the foot by this internal speed cage that, I mean, if you love that locked in, secure, and almost like ready fit, it's a very, very nice feeling. On the other hand, then we have the Phantom GX, which is basically, well, it's the exact opposite of the Mercurial, because the focus here is on freedom, or should I maybe even say on adaptiveness. Adaptiveness? Adaptability? You know what I mean? It's adaptive. That's the key word. Because you basically have two materials that are both very soft. You have GripKnit and Flyknit. And the softness basically means that it feels like a sock when you put it on. I know it's been said before, but truly, when you put your foot in, it just immediately takes to the shape of your foot, molds around, no questions asked. I mean, it just adapts immediately. And that's also one of the reasons that I don't really think that this low pointed toe box is a problem, because yeah, it's tight, but the material just kind of molds around the shape of my toes. It does its thing. The GripKnit is even a little bit stretchy, so very, very nice. And I don't think it's unfair to say that out of the two, the Phantom GX is just the more comfortable. It's a bit of a no-brainer for me, really. Yes, the Mercurial does feel very nice, but it is also more snug and locked in and focused, really, whereas the GX is just more of a bit of a textbook example when it comes to that effortless, cozy comfort. Just gotta, I think when you try it, you'll understand what I mean. What else? Right, lockdown, of course. Mercurial. It's all about the Mercurial here, because the tightness of the fit alone means that the boot just feels more responsive, but also because of that internal speed cage and the tighter fitting, more sculpted heel counter, you just get the feeling that when you make little twists and turns, the boot just responds better to your movements. It feels more responsive simply than the GX, where the lockdown is, it could be worse, but it could definitely also be better. And I mean, it's a natural trade-off when you have such a free-feeling upper. And it could have done with a little bit more lockdown, I would say, in the midfoot, maybe from, I don't know, Brio cables like we saw on the Hypervenom Phantom 3, but it is what it is, and it's not a deal breaker for me. It's just not where the focus lies. So if you like lockdown, well, go for the Mercurials. I should also bring up the size, where I would say my optimal size in both of the boots is to go true to size. But they differ a little bit, because for me at least, the Mercurial actually feels true to size lengthwise. It's perfect. Whereas the Phantom GX runs maybe 1/4 to 1/8 of a size long. So while it's not enough for me at least to go down half a size, I would stay true to size, but you just you gotta know that there's a little bit of space in the toe. Not a deal breaker, but now you know. So to sum it up, this is a bit wider, it's very free, adaptive, comfort for days. Whereas the Mercurial is a bit more snug, tight-fitting, responsive, a little bit slimmer, and it's all about speed. And also pretty comfortable. So yeah, that's the fit. And I should probably also touch on the touch. That was a lame one. But anyways, both boots actually feel relatively thin and barefoot-like on the ball. But that's kind of also where the similarities stop, because the Phantom GX obviously has a lot of grip. It is very, very sticky. You can almost hear it. But it also has this nice balance where it feels like, yes, you get the grip, it's noticeable, it has that wow factor, but it's never too much, I feel. Now on the other side, we have the Mercurial, which feels more matte to the touch. It still has a bit of like tactility and friction on the ball, but that primarily comes from the texture of the material rather than this natural stickiness to the material of the GX. So the Phantom GX also has a slightly larger striking surface because it has an off-center lacing, and in part also the Ghost lace cover, so it feels a little bit cleaner to strike the ball, whereas the Mercurial has that almost like zinginess, that pinginess when you strike the ball. It feels very, very honest and naked and barefoot-like. So both are nice and nimble, and it's up for you to decide. And then there are the outsoles, which, to be fair, it's also like night and day. You have the Mercurials, obviously, you have your Zoom Air unit in the forefoot, which offers this really unique, one with the boot feel. You have this squishy bounciness to it as well, which is very nice. And then on top of that, you have this really responsive, very snappy outsole with a very aggressive stop pattern as well. So it's got speed written all over it, and it delivers. So on the other side of the spectrum, you have the Phantom GX with a stop pattern that I actually really like. I think it's great for that multi-direction movement, and it feels like a breeze wherever you push off and accelerate. But the plate itself is, it's very soft, it's very flexible. That's a difficult word. It's very flexible, especially in the forefoot, but also in the midfoot. I can't do that with the Mercurials as easily. And I think this is where it really boils down to personal preference, because yes, there's nothing in the way here, you feel completely free, but there's also next to nothing really supporting you when you need that base to push off. So it's very free, this is more secure, and personally, my truth isn't the universal truth, but I definitely prefer the Mercs because of that solid base, that platform it gives you to push off. And basically, the outsole itself is the only thing that I don't really vibe with on the GX. But to Nike's credit, I think they've done a pretty smart move here in making such a sharp distinction between the two boots. Because you have a very easy choice to make. Do you want the grip? Do you want the wider fit? Do you want that very free sensation? Or do you want a slightly more locked-in, speed-oriented option? Well, it's an easy choice. No more, flying it, both of them. No. And the good thing is that they're also, in my book at least, genuinely in the top bracket right now. So I'm gonna be wearing them a lot. But which is my favorite then, you ask? Well, it's a tough question. Can I get a GX with the Mercurial outsole? No? Okay, but then I'll have to go Mercurial because of the outsole. But what about you guys? Which of the two boots would you choose? Let me know in the comment section, as always, right down below. And remember that you can buy both the Mercurial and the Phantom GX in the link to Unisport right over there. Now, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, of course, go and do that. It's free, and we release awesome videos every day. And finally, if you love learning new skills and improving as a footballer, there's a playlist right down there that you can also go and check out. And with those words, guys, I'll be signing off. Cheerio.